Everything we do is going to be about winning. Okay, we're going to learn to do things the right way, and that's the only way we're going to do them. Because if it doesn't help us, we're not doing it, man. That's just as simple as it gets. Win the Super Bowl.
That's
I
good.
mean it too. You know, one of the things that the only reason you become a head coach in this league, in my opinion, is to win. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you do it for any other reason, you're wrong.
Hey football fans, welcome to the Washington Command Center. Today, I want to talk about 4 prospects who, in my opinion, are must-have in the upcoming draft. There are a lot of prospects littered throughout the draft that could help this team tremendously, but in my opinion, there are 4 very specific prospects projected from late in the first round all the way to the end of day 3 that don't just make us a little better. These guys are so special, so can't miss, and such perfect fits that they could kick off a dynasty in this new era of Washington football. An era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. And what better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back to some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. While you're at it, hit that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. So, I know some people scoff at the idea of must-have or targeting players in general, leaning on that best available player mentality, but I reject that thinking, at least how most people view it. They view it from like a consensus board kind of way, like the most people say this guy's the best, but I look at it as a best available fit, for our biggest need. Who's the best player that does what we need the best? That's how I, rank the whole board, you know, from the view of our team. Like, I don't look at it any other way. And I think that's the way NFL teams rank them too, is like, you're not going to look at a guy that doesn't fit your scheme and, rank him as highly as, guys that can fit your scheme. So, now, I think with what we have in Wentz, the boost he's going to be to this offense, along with the boost the offense is going to be to Wentz. And I think that means that we're looking great offensively. Honestly, our 4th and 5th, wide receivers with Cam Sims and Dax Milne are basically the level of talent that Wentz has had to work with so far in his career. And Terry, Diami, and a healthy Samuel are all massive upgrades from what he's had to work with. You know, especially for a guy that spreads the ball around the way he does, I can honestly see Terry, Diami, and Curtis becoming the Posse 2.0. Doing something only 5 other teams have done in NFL history, and possibly making us the only team in NFL history to ever do it twice. I think we might see 3 1,000-yard wide receivers this season. And I know that's a bold statement, but I really think we could see it if, Wentz stays healthy, of course. And even with the turnover from last year, I'm confident that if we could keep Taylor Heineke healthy all season, we can keep Wentz healthy. And, you know, that said, with our current offense, I think there's just very slight adjustments that could be made. Ones that, make a ton of sense and the kind that can be accomplished late in the draft. The team's slightly hinted at them, recently, and I'll talk about why I think it would be a smart move. And the prospect I think would be perfect for the job, but I think there isn't much work to do offensively to get us to peak level, with Wentz at the helm. And I think there's a specific piece I'll explain when I get there. But with that said, our lack of moves in free agency on the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion, was the right thing to do, especially with all the talent in this draft. And that's where our early concentration has to go in this draft. Guys who are perfect fits to boost this defense to the elite level we expected it to reach. Now, I've been harping on some of these guys a bit in previous mocks and in comment sections, pretty much everywhere. Anybody will see it. Trying to build some hype for these guys and speak it into existence. I really think that these are the best possible guys for us. And today, I want to talk about, what each particular player adds to the team and what they allow us to do, who they compare to, and what it would mean in the scheme of things. So, in my opinion, it's absolutely imperative that we trade out of pick 11. Three of my top prospects here range from late first rounders, possibly to third rounders, or if we're lucky and they don't catch up to their PFF ranking and fall more into the consensus, they could be mid to late second rounders or third rounders. Either way, a trade out of 11 lets us move back, late into the first and replace our lost third with a second. And I think the only way we don't trade back is if Kyle Hamilton makes it to us at 11. And in that scenario, we take him, pray that my first guy here makes it to 48 while frantically trying to package, some picks from the rest of the draft and future picks to try to get back into the second. And if that scenario happens where we end up with Hamilton, my number one and number two guy, then it's time for us to buy lottery tickets because we're extremely lucky as a fan base if that happens. But I think trading back is the most likely outcome. And now people are talking like this is going to be impossible with this quarterback class and how it's viewed. But I strongly disagree. And depending on how the first 10 picks fall, I think we could have plenty of suitors. Sure, if Malik Willis makes it to us, we could end up with Pittsburgh, New Orleans, and possibly even the Lions, blowing up our phone. But originally I saw Green Bay as the most realistic possible suitor. But now it actually looks like, we might benefit from a possible bidding war. I initially thought we'd have to package like a future pick or something with 11 to try to land both Green Bay's first round picks. I thought that would be the move. But in the end, I thought we'd probably just end up with, 22 and 52 to move back from 11. But now that Kansas City is in the same boat as Green Bay with 29 and 30, the fact that I think they could very well be willing to give up those picks. I think Kansas City would have no problem giving up 29 and 30 to move up at 11 and come up for the pick of the litter at wide receiver. And I think them being willing to do that could force Green Bay to offer us the same deal with better picks with 22 and 28. That might sound a bit far-fetched, but I think it could definitely be in the realm of possibility. They're trying to replace elite production at the wide receiver level. It's not just about like, oh, they're not just going to try to, singly replace Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill, they're going to try to do more with that. No, they're going to try to do that cheaper. They're going to try to get that kind of production cheaper. And they're going to have a way better shot at making sure they get the top guy on their board by coming up to 11 instead of waiting around till 22 or 29. I'm just saying, I think finding a, trade partner is going to be a lot easier than people are thinking, because trading up to 11 for an edge defender, wide receiver, cornerback makes a lot more sense than trading into the top 5 for anything other than a quarterback. So I don't think anybody's going to look to jump that high. And it's a trade that's not going to cost anybody any future firsts. Like, we're not going to get a future first rounder for the move back. And with future picks possibly being, valued a bit more this year because the next quarterback class is stronger, I think it's much easier to swallow for, a lot more teams to, trade up to that 11 now without giving away any futures. And that's kind of the deal we'd be looking for. So I think I think we'll very easily end up with a trade back partner. So I think it's extremely likely that we'll be able to add, a pick or two and be in the position to draft these prospects. And I'm going to go through them in projected draft order here, when I'm listing them. And first up, after a trade back, is the all-important Mike linebacker position. Now, a lot of people think Ron shouldn't or wouldn't draft linebacker in the first 2 years in a row, but the Mike is the quarterback of the defense. And after getting what could be our franchise quarterback for the offense, I know some people might not be there with Wentz yet, but I honestly think he could possibly be the guy for the next 10 years here. I think we need to lock that position down on our defense. And I also think this is best done through the draft as opposed with a veteran in free agency, because you want your Mike to last the life of the defense. Turnover here really messes up defensive continuity, so we need to get it right. And wherever we end up in the trade back, we need a Mike. So what are we looking for in a Mike? Well, with our desire to move to nickel as a base, with us moving Jamin to the outside where his speed and athleticism will be utilized way better. And, it'll be a massive asset covering tight ends. Where he showed in college he was capable of covering even Kyle Pitts, the freakiest of tight ends, along with his speed helping him completely seal the edge against outside runs. We need a Mike athletic enough to control the middle of the field, cover our running back coming out of the backfield in man coverage. But with us predominantly playing zone and him only actually, being responsible for that running back and man, man coverage ability isn't a huge need for our Mike. And most of the time, he's going to be keyed on the quarterback. But more importantly, we need a guy that can get downhill, clog that B gap off Payne's shoulder and run defense, sift through the trash, if the run's going outside. And with us going to nickel and having that extra coverage guy in the nickel and Jamin outside, we need a guy in the middle that's sole responsibility is stamping out the run and chasing down these quarterbacks. Offenses go in phases, and we're seeing, more and more offenses adapting to these 220-pound linebackers by running the ball down their throats. The Titans are kings of that, and they got the first seed in the freaking AFC doing that without King Henry last year, for the most part. Then the Patriots, Colts, Browns, 49ers, Ravens, they're all geared that way to make fools of these 220-pound linebackers. We're even using, the run heavily. And with Philly moving that way, Dallas's offensive losses in this offseason, it looks like they're going to be falling back on their run game. We need that sure guy in the middle to stop that. And transitioning to nickel, gives us those extra coverage defenders. Like I said, the nickel, Jamin out there to thrive. That's enough to help us thrive in the passing league now. But now we need beef in the middle, for the other teams, the teams that are going the other way with the power run games. And there's a perfect guy for this in this draft that has elite Micah Parsons level ability in that aspect to completely manhandle offensive linemen, track down ball carriers or quarterbacks behind the line. And that dude is Leo Chenal from Wisconsin. I know you've heard me talk about him. Right now, Chenal isn't getting any first round hype outside of PFF, but after his combine, when more and more coaches turn on the tape, he's going to start getting more first round talk. And I bet, there's already a few coaches in the NFL praying he doesn't get the hype heading into the draft so they can steal him in the second. Now, he doesn't have tape showing off elite coverage abilities that, most teams are looking for, but he has all the athleticism to be, competent there. And it's using him in coverage is just a waste with what he can do coming downhill. He's absolutely elite against the run and blitzing. He's 6'3", 250 pounds, rock solid. He has a 9.9 RAS compared to Micah Parsons, who had a 9.59 RAS, or Jamin Davis, who was a 9.93. Even Hall of Fame Luke Kuechly had a 9.98, just slightly below. Now, he doesn't have that insane 4.39 speed that Parsons had or Jamin, but at 250 pounds, a legit 250, he has 4.35, and that's pretty crazy. And that was faster than Kuechly's 4.58. He's also faster through the first 20 yards with 10-yard and 20-yard splits, better in the explosive drills than Micah Parsons. He had a massive 40.5-inch vert at his size and a 10.8 broad, compared to Parsons. He edged Parsons out. Parsons edged him out by 0.2 in the 3-cone, but Leo's bigger, and, they've both had elite numbers anyway. But Leo took the shuttle in a big way over Parsons with a 4.24 to Parsons 4.4. And I know you're thinking that's all fine and good, testing numbers, that's cool. What about on the field? Well, we went all athleticism with Jamin last year. Maybe you don't want to hear that. Didn't work out too great. Well, just turn on the tape. This guy is an animal. He teleports to quarterbacks and running backs in the backfield. He passes through offensive lines like he's intangible, like a ghost, like Vision in the Avengers. But he's full Thanos when he gets to the quarterback, okay? And if you want some more numbers, sure, he's got them. Second highest overall graded linebacker in the draft behind Nakobe Dean, who's one of those tiny linebackers, but it was still insanely close. Nakobe Dean had a 9.17 PFF grade, while Chanel had a 9.15. 2.2 difference in the grading. And everybody else's favorite, Devin Lloyd, is back there right behind Chad Muma. Chad Muma graded above him with a 90.3 to a 90.2. But Chanel is by far top of the class, and he's one of the best ever in PFF grading, second all time in run defense behind Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is the top graded run defender in PFF's history, and Chanel is right behind him. Parsons had a 94.8 run defense grade, and Chanel had a 94.1. And Parsons also had a top pass rushing grade in that class with Chanel also has the top pass rush grade in this class at linebacker with a 92.4. He's got an 87.4 tackling grade. He had 115 total tackles this year, 18.5 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He's, pretty average in coverage as far as man goes, but in zone, he's really good. He reads the quarterback. He keeps crossing wide receivers completely covered in his zone. And again, he's just a perfect fit for our defense. Chanel is a monster tackler, easily the most physical linebacker in this draft, untouchable block shedder, the best blitzer in the class, with top-tier football IQ and phenomenal instincts, while also being able to expertly read the quarterback and the play to always be where he's supposed to be. And oftentimes, he got there before the play was even developed and was just never wrong. So, this is exactly the kind of presence we need in the middle of this defense to tie everything together and shoot it into the stratosphere. So, Leo Chanel, is just a monster. Okay, so moving on to the next guy. Gonna stop fangirling here for Chanel to easily, after Chanel, the most important piece to our transition to nickel, and that's the nickel himself. Now, there are different types of players you can put at nickel. Cornerbacks that might be undersized for the outside, but are really good tacklers. Safeties that might not be great in coverage, but are better than linebackers, like Landon was. But a little more rare are specific nickel players. In college, it's treated as its own thing. Like, you have the star position, like in Alabama's defense and a bunch of other defenses. And one of those other teams that use a star position is Baylor. And this year, they have a guy that is an elite fit at that position. And this guy is a perfect blend of a slot cornerback and a linebacker, making him the perfect nickel for our defense. And that's a guy we need to target right after we get our mic. We need to get this guy, and that's Jalen Petrie, 6 foot, 200 pounds, but still a guy that can stack offensive linemen, when coming downhill and run defense. He also led all defensive backs in college with 47 defensive stops, which are far more important than tackles. Stops are the real stat, He also had a 88.6 overall PFF grade. He's great at covering the slot. He's a guy that can stick to wide receivers or, running backs coming out of the backfield, cover the flats, come up, pop running backs behind the line, and even blitz the quarterback at a high level, he had a blended skill set that you just don't see anywhere else. And he's seen as a mid second to third rounder by most, but PFF has him, in late first round range. But I think we'll be able to safely get him at 48, and we absolutely better get him there and not wait for whatever pick we get from a trade back, because I can almost guarantee that Dallas will be going after this guy with their second round pick to replace Curse. Then, we'll have to put up with this guy and Micah Parsons, both at the linebacker level for the next 10 years. And if not them, he's also meeting with the Ravens, the Eagles in our division. He's meeting with the 49ers. So, along with Leo, this guy is almost irreplaceable as a target. There's really no one else in this draft that offers what he does at the level he does. Luckily for us, we're one of the few teams looking for that skill set, along with the teams I've named. But it's a very special skill set, and we better grab it before someone else does. Then moving on with that, I think we got to take the pick we traded back, our third pick. And with the first two picks, this defense is almost completed. And, we have a chance to get the final piece with elite potential and get a true rangy, deep safety with a guy that has great size, instincts, and absolutely elite speed and range at the position. And that guy is a local talent too, in my opinion. Maryland safety Nick Cross would be perfect for that. This guy, projected third round. So what if we take him late in the second to make sure we get him? This guy has strong safety box size at 6 foot, 212 pounds, with range unlike any other free safety in this draft. And honestly, in the NFL, there's not many guys with this kind of speed. 4.4 speed is usually great, with a lot of the top guys in the NFL actually having 4.5 speed. Like Marcus Williams is a 4.5 speed guy. This guy gives you a whole other gear with 4.3 speed, and he can get anywhere on the field that needs help in a flash. And with that, 4.3 speed and a safety cushion, the safety's cushion, how far they're playing off, no deep threat in the NFL is getting by him. Tyreek Hill is fast, and he can usually blow by full defenses. But that 4.3 speed with that cushion he's going to have at safety, and nobody is getting over the top of our defense. And that same speed is going to be great for flying downhill if by some strange occurrence someone gets past Chanel, which I don't see happening. But it's good to have that, security. That's safety. He projects late second, early third, like I said, and he just happens to be a perfect fit for what we need and should be right there in the range if we trade back, which I think we will. Now, I know the idea of trading back might piss off, some people, and I know for a fact that going defense with our first three picks will piss off most people. But I think it's the smartest thing to do. I think most Washington fans aren't completely bought into just how much of an upgrade Wentz is going to be to this offense. How much he's going to elevate the players we have. What Diami's going to do with him. Curtis being healthy. Hell, even how much he's going to elevate Sims or Milne. They also aren't counting on how much our top three guys are going to elevate Wentz, who's had MVP caliber seasons plus, another 4,000 yard season with complete scrubs at wide receiver. No 1,000-yard receiver of any type in a 4,000-yard season. Now, his tight ends were his only decent pass catchers his whole time in Philly, and even the best tight ends in the league kind of cap out around 1,000 yards a season at the best, where quality wide receiver can get you 1,500 yards. And I think our offense is going to be stellar with Wentz at quarterback. And I'm not saying we don't need to add any offense, but the area we can improve the most it's available late. And I think that's where we go with what the team's kind of spoken about already, looking for a running back to share the load with Antonio Gibson, and a big bruising back that can take advantage and bully these modern linebackers I was talking about. These 220-pound linebackers. The Nakobe Dean's coming out of the draft. A guy their size or bigger, the closer to 240 pounds, the better. There aren't a lot of guys in that range in this draft, but there are some power backs like Michigan's Hassan Haskins, Baylor's Abram Smith, that they're powerful runners between the tackles in that 225-pound range. And then we got Bama's Brian Robinson that gets, closer to what we're looking for there size-wise. He's right on that 230. But there's a guy not getting any hype except for in my videos that's a perfect blend of what we need. Again, another guy I've pounded the table for already. He's just too perfect to fit. This is a guy I would have been fine with if JD left. Like, if JD left and we could get this guy, I would be okay. But still, he adds a whole new aspect to us at the running back position if we get this guy. Like, Antonio Gibson is a jack of all trades with some tackle breaking along with pass catching ability because he's a freaking wide receiver. But his best asset is speed. JD is more of a shifty pass catcher and intelligent pass protector. But we're lacking true power at the position. And I think the perfect guy to fill that role is Xander Horvath from Purdue. And if this was a video game and you took Antonio Gibson and his stat tree where he's got nearly maxed out speed along with a decent spread of other attributes throughout, and you took those extra speed points to take him down to around average, then you put him over into the power and explosiveness category, you'd have Xander Horvath. And at 6'2", 237 pounds, great receiver out of the backfield, good speed with explosive start-stop, but with the power between the tackles to move the pile. Blast guys out of the way, along with the power and technique to stand up to edge rushers and pass protection. This is a guy that'll bully just about anybody at the second level. Those 220-pound linebackers, hell, those 240-pound linebackers, this guy come with a head of steam. They're not going to stop him. It's a guy we can put in the first half to tenderize defenses so Antonio Gibson can just run rampant in the second half. It's a guy we can put in to get those tough yards on, third downs or get touchdowns on the goal line. He's a perfect Swiss Army knife as a third down receiving threat or plus pass protector. And he can even be a late game lead protector. He's the kind of do-it-all running back that could have been an every down bell cow back, kind of back in the day. But that's not really how it's done anymore. Instead, he can be that final piece to a dominant committee that we can have here running back. Like, all three of those pieces just perfectly complementing each other, all being able to do a little bit of everything that the other one does, but each excelling in a different area. I think he's perfect at that. And I think that's the kind of addition that would be the cherry on top of what Carson Wentz is going to be able to unleash with our wide receivers and tight ends, where Chenal, Petrie, and Cross are needed to complete this defense and make it an elite unit, that we all expected it to be, with Chenal and Petrie solving our problems at the linebacker level. That'll free up our D-line and let them get home early and often, which will make things easier on our secondary with less time in coverage, not to mention the urgency and mistakes that'll force opposing quarterbacks to make. And then having a player with size, range, athleticism, and versatility like Cross over the top is the literal defensive cherry on top that, will be able to account for any other mistakes or shortcomings that the cornerbacks might make. I think, I'm going to link some of these guys' highlight videos in the descriptions, since I can't use any footage without a strike. And I don't expect everyone to go watch game after game like I did, but you'll at least get an idea of the high-end play these guys are capable of. And just remember, I'm going to put these in there, pop back in to my comments, and let me know what you think if you go and watch them. See, in my opinion, these guys are the answer to the question of long-term success in this new era of Washington football. These are the players that'll make this defense and football team as a whole command respect as a dominant force moving forward. With what we can be, I think we can be a top tier offense with Wentz at quarterback. And I think we could be a team that we could honestly be like an improved, more complete version of what the 49ers have. A team that can take command of the NFC for years to come. You might think I'm crazy, but it's definitely possible by adding these guys in the draft. But let me know what you think in the comments. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe here to the Washington Command Center for some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Commanders football. And if you watch this long, I definitely love y'all. Peace.